Imagine this. A country long considered a core member of the European Union starts shifting east, towards Russia, towards China, and maybe even closer to the BRICS alliance. Hungary is no longer just the EU's rebel, it might be on the edge of a major geopolitical shift. So what's going on? Why would Hungary risk isolating itself in Europe just to build ties with Russia and China? What's driving this dramatic pivot? And what does it mean for Europe, NATO, and the rest of the world? That's where it gets really intriguing. Let's rewind for a second. Hungary became part of the EU in 2004, but lately, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has been steering the country in a very different direction, one that directly clashes with the EU's core values. Why? One word: sovereignty. Orbán's government believes the EU has started overreaching, interfering in Hungary's internal affairs, especially in areas like the legal system and press freedom. That belief resonates with many Hungarians, who feel they're standing up for traditional values against what they see as the EU's progressive agenda. Recent surveys reveal a dramatic change in attitude. Support for the EU in Hungary has dropped to just 47%, compared to 80% a decade ago. So the question is the EU still the right partner for Hungary? For Orbán, the answer seems to be increasingly no. As EU pressure grows, Hungary is turning to new partners. Hungary's pivot to the east isn't just for show, it's reshaping its role in Europe. The country has signed new trade agreements with China and Russia, aiming to tap into those growing markets. One major step: Hungary became the first EU nation to sign onto China's Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's vast global infrastructure project promising investment and development in exchange for tighter ties. This turn carries major consequences for the EU. The Union prides itself on a shared foreign policy, but Hungary's choices could threaten that unity. And this isn't just about economics, it's also part of a deeper ideological rift in Europe. Hungary's growing alignment with Russia and China is setting off alarms in Brussels. Could this signal a real break inside the EU? If you're finding this topic fascinating, give this video a like and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback really helps us grow. Thanks. Let's now look at how BRICS could factor into Hungary's future. BRICS, short for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is rising as a counterweight to traditional Western alliances. Hungary sees it as a promising group, especially in areas like energy, infrastructure, and finance. This isn't random. The BRICS economies are expanding fast. By 2022, they made up 31% of the world's GDP, just ahead of the G7's 30%. That's a clear sign that economic power is shifting, and Hungary wants to be part of it. But there's a complication. Hungary still relies heavily on Russian energy. That creates serious tensions within the EU. Even after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Hungary continued to import Russian gas, openly going against EU sanctions. Orbán's government argues that keeping energy flowing is the top priority, and staying linked to Russia is necessary. This isn't unique to Hungary. Many European nations are trying to walk the same tightrope, balancing their energy demands with political pressure from the EU and the United States. According to Hungary's energy ministry, about 85% of its gas still comes from Russia. That dependency is straining Hungary's relations both inside the EU and on the global stage, and energy is only one part of the story. Hungary also blocked EU military aid to Ukraine at a key moment. Orbán's team said sending weapons would only make things worse and go against Hungary's interests. That decision put the country at odds with NATO and the EU, right in the middle of a major crisis. This isn't just about Ukraine. It's about Hungary trying to assert control in a world full of alliances and expectations. NATO demands unity among its members, but Hungary's actions are raising questions among its partners. So how does Hungary justify all this while still staying in NATO? It's a delicate balancing act, and one that's left many in the West scratching their heads. Meanwhile, Hungary delayed Sweden's NATO membership. That move didn't go unnoticed. Orbán claims it's about national security, but some believe Russia's influence may be playing a part. There's growing speculation that Hungary is using its veto power as leverage to show it won't be pushed around, especially by EU nations that criticize its politics. Is this clever diplomacy, or is Hungary being drawn into a larger geopolitical battle? Now let's look at Hungary's relationship with China. Hungary is currently the only EU country openly supporting China's Belt and Road Initiative. This backing is transforming Hungary's role in Europe. It's positioning itself as a connector between the EU and Asia. As a result, Chinese money is flowing into Hungary, especially in infrastructure, technology, and education. But critics warn of hidden costs. They argue that by relying so much on Chinese funding, Hungary may be giving up some of its independence, making it more vulnerable to political pressure from Beijing. The Belt and Road program offers short-term wins, new growth, big investments, and shiny projects. In 2022 alone, Chinese companies poured over $1 billion into Hungary, mostly in energy and transportation. But there's a trade-off. Eventually, those investments come with strings attached, financial or political. Hungary may be gaining now, but the price could be steep down the road. So could Hungary's growing connections with China and BRICS be the beginning of something much bigger? As we zoom out, one thing becomes clear. Hungary's eastward turn might not just be a local story. It could be a sign of a wider global shift. This isn't just one country drifting from the West. It points to a deeper realignment happening in global politics. More and more nations are forming new alliances outside the traditional Western sphere. Countries that once felt left out are now teaming up and creating new power centers. The BRICS alliance is gaining momentum, with countries like Argentina, Egypt, and Iran showing serious interest in joining. Hungary's warming ties with these nations may be a quiet message to the West. The global order is shifting. We're entering a new era, one where no single power dominates. The concept of a multipolar world is gaining real traction, and Hungary is positioning itself right in the middle of that change. Its tilt toward BRICS could eventually reshape the balance of global power. And this isn't just about trade or investment, it's about influence. Who gets to guide the direction of global affairs, and who gets to set the rules? Hungary's growing partnerships with Russia and China hint at a move away from the Western-led post-World War II system that has defined world politics for decades. As BRICS pushes ahead with its own financial systems, like the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, it's offering alternatives to traditional institutions such as the IMF and World Bank. By 2023, BRICS nations represented roughly 44% of the global population and 31% of the world's GDP. That's not just symbolic, it gives the group real influence. Hungary's alignment with BRICS could provide short-term economic boosts, but more importantly, it may secure long-term strategic positioning as the world order evolves. Hungary's involvement in China's Belt and Road Initiative is a strong signal of its commitment to this new direction. The initiative aims to boost trade between Asia and Europe, and Hungary's central location makes it an ideal hub. That could translate into major economic opportunities. But it also brings concerns about Beijing's growing influence in the region. As Hungary continues down this path, questions are mounting, at home and across Europe. What do these foreign policy shifts mean for everyday Hungarians? And what does it mean for the EU as a whole? Hungary's decisions are creating ripple effects beyond its borders. They're testing not only the EU's unity, but also the very principles the Union was built on. The EU, long seen as a bloc united by shared values, now faces growing internal divisions, and Hungary may not be alone for long. Rising skepticism toward the EU is being echoed in places like Poland and Italy, where public sentiment is starting to mirror Hungary's. If that discontent continues to spread, it could lead to political shifts that weaken the EU's cohesion, something it has relied on for decades. If Hungary sticks to this path, the EU may have to make tough choices. Will it adapt to this new reality or double down on its core principles? Other countries could be forced to choose. Either support Hungary's position or defend the EU's traditional stance. That leaves EU leaders in a tricky position. How do they deal with Hungary's resistance without alienating other citizens who feel the same way? It's a fine balance between protecting unity and respecting national independence, one that could define Europe's future. Now let's explore how Hungary's economic future, and that of its neighbors, might be shaped by its deeper ties with BRICS. Economically, this shift holds both promise and danger. On the plus side, stronger relationships with China, Russia, and others could bring quick economic gains, especially through the Belt and Road. Infrastructure funding could create new jobs and boost local economies. In 2023, experts estimated that Chinese investment alone could raise Hungary's GDP by 1 to 2%, particularly through growth in tech and manufacturing. That kind of increase could uplift struggling regions and raise living standards. But there's a downside. Becoming too dependent on BRICS economies could backfire if global conditions change. Even more concerning, Hungary's actions could strain relations with its European partners. If tensions escalate, Hungary might face trade barriers or even economic penalties from the EU, threatening its exports and economic stability. The EU's economy is deeply interconnected. Any serious break in cooperation could feel like a betrayal. If Hungary pushes too far, it risks losing long-term stability in favor of short-term gains. So now, Hungary faces some tough choices. As it moves closer to BRICS, the government must figure out how to stay committed to NATO and the EU, while still benefiting from its new partnerships. So far, Prime Minister Orban's message has been consistent. Hungary will not give up its sovereignty under outside pressure. That stance may well become the core of Hungary's foreign policy for years to come. Hungary now finds itself at a critical crossroads. It could become a crucial link between East and West, or risk becoming increasingly isolated from its Western allies. The choice it makes now will define its global role for decades. But this isn't just about Hungary. The country's decisions could shape the entire future of Europe. The bigger question, how will the EU respond to a member state charting such a different course? This tension may become one of Europe's defining political challenges. Hungary's shift from loyal EU member to possible BRICS partner is more than just a national pivot. It's a sign of larger global changes. As Hungary redefines its place, the ripple effects could challenge the world's existing institutions and norms. So, what's next? Will Hungary spark a wider transformation in global power dynamics? Only time will tell. But one thing's clear. As the world shifts, we'll need to rethink how we understand these increasingly complex global relationships. Thanks for watching. We're glad you joined us. If this video got you thinking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means a lot. And if you're curious to learn more, check out our next video, linked right here.